Hey everyone! In this episode I'm building a Triwizard Tournament diorama. To be honest, I don't have that much connection with the Harry Potter movies like with Star Wars or Jurassic Park, but we like to watch the movies at fall, and I too have a scar on my forehead. But anyway, I like dragons, and if they are Hungarian, it's even better. Although I have to say, we Hungarians have only one famous dragon, and it's nothing like the Hungarian Horntail. As usual, I started the project with the digital part, so I modeled Harry and the Beast in Blender and printed them. I decided to make this scene when Harry comes into the dragon pit through this cave-like entrance, and the dragon tries to smash him with its tail, then breathes fire on him. For the base of the diorama, I used an offcut from a woodworking project. I applied this trick with the bent cardboard to draw a nice and even curve for the side of the arena. Beautiful, isn't it? I rather just freehanded it than cut it off with my bandsaw. After that, I sliced some XPS pieces to form the bulk of the rocks. Hot glue gun is the fastest way I know to stick XPS to anything, so I went with that. Here you can see as I unnecessarily cut and arranged the pieces, because later I changed my mind and made the wall first, so I could work from inside out, which was much easier. I have cut a strip of thick cardboard that I glued and nailed to the curved edge of the wood base. I have cut a curved piece of XPS to fill the hole at the edge. Okay, I admit that I edited out a few cuts. I drew a sketch of the rocks, just to cover it with the foam strips. Here I realized that I put the glue on the wrong side.
Perhaps this will show you why.
It's the dark mark Harry is his mark.
I had to cut another strip and glue that on the wall. Then I made the arrangement for the rocks again, making sure that all of them have a bit of overhang on the sides. I put the dragon to its future place to see if the distances are approximately right. Forgot to record how I cut out the cave, but it happened exactly like this. I further shaped the entrance.
Amazing!
After I glued everything in place, I cut off the overhanging parts in the plane of the sides. Using my neglected sculpting tools, I carved the stone texture into the wall. I also used the old tinfoil trick to make the texture look more stony. After that, I mixed a thick batch of plaster of Paris and put it in wrinkled tinfoil. This will be good for small stones later. To make the rock formations, I turned to my trusty old friend, cheap toilet paper. I teared it to pieces, added water, plaster and PVAC glue. When it was thoroughly mixed, I applied it tastefully on the XPS base. When it was covered everywhere, I tried to form flat surfaces and angles that would look more rocky.
He's an artist!
The fun part was to make the rock surface with different engraving tools. The key here is to carve random lines, angles and indents. I mostly use the rotary tool for the bigger lines and the stick and poke engraver for the small details. When I put the dragon to its place again, it turned out that not all of its limbs touched the ground.
There's the dark mark. Now this.
I had to put a bit more of the DIY modeling compound there to build a small platform. After the whole terrain dried, I sanded the sides. The little plaster cake was also baked in the meantime on my extremely hot yard, so it just have to be properly sliced and served.
Oh no, I'm not hungry, thank you.
I used the small plaster bits as stones and heaps of rubble. I also spread some very tiny real stones, because the size variety makes the diorama visually more interesting. Of course, after seeing the terrain with fresh eyes the next day, I wasn't satisfied with some parts. I removed the rocks and fixed the angles on a few spots. Then I glued on the stones. For the tiny ones, I used my basing glue, which is heavily diluted and mixed with a little alcohol, so it can flow into every nook and cranny. I just had to wait a bit while it dried.
4 years later.
When the glue had set, I painted the whole diorama black and dry brushed everything with white. Then I used different shades of watered down brown paints to tint the rocks. As a colorblind man, I can tell you, the eyedropper tool in the graphics softwares are very handy, so you don't have to repaint the whole thing when it turns out it has a green undertone everywhere. After I corrected this, I dry brushed the terrain again with the light color. Then stippled the mossy green on the top of the rocks. After that, I grabbed my tiny makeup brush, dry brushed just the stone wall and painted random brown blotches on it. I also applied this paint where water could run down or pool on the terrain. Then I used a new technique that I believed most likely would work fine.
Most likely. Most likely.
With a stiff brush, I stippled tiny white dots on the rocks. I watered down the paint so the effect is not so heavy, and where it was too much, I wiped off a bit. And man, was I happy with it. The whole terrain just got on a different visual level by this. When I finished the painting, I corrected the sides with dark brown wood filler, so if the painted surface chips off somewhere, there won't be a bright spot. In the movie, the whole arena looked somewhat wet, so I airbrushed everything with satin and some places with glossy varnish. I primed the dragon and Tiny Harry black and airbrushed white from above to simulate light direction.
You're doing it again.
I already made this mistake once before with the T-Rex of my Jurassic Park diorama. As you may know, reptiles are brighter on their belly. Anyway, after the zenithal priming, I mixed this yellowish brown watercoloring with acrylic medium and hope for the best.
It's not going to work.
Can you see how the moisture from the next layer of paint reactivated the ink? I washed it off in the sink and tried again with acrylic paint. Switching to brush, I painted the dark brown parts and then the bright beige ones. The skin of the wings and the edges of the bright part got a more saturated yellowish brown layer, then I painted the nails, teeth, eyes and the spikes. I darkened the skin at the right places to indicate thickness.
That's what he did.
And dry brushed the whole body with beige to make the scales pop. To make this incredibly long paint job even longer, I applied the wash to the dragon.
Oh no.
This was way too dark, so I had to bring back the highlights. I also airbrushed the beast with the satin varnish, because in the movie its skin was a bit shiny. Painting Tiny Harry was a lot easier. I'm not even gonna narrate it. Have fun without my accent.
Do enjoy yourself, won't you? While you can.
I never made flames before, so at first I tried to follow an Eric's Hobby Workshop tutorial. I soaked the cotton balls in yellow ink, but it doesn't matter how hard I blew them. Mine just did not grow so big as his. So after measuring the length, I glued the cotton balls onto the wire before painting. It already looked better, but I added more cotton to buff up the fluff. Then I pulled out the airbrush again to paint it yellow. I have used a few drops of basing glue to make the pointy end of the fire. I was very nervous before making the object source lighting. It was a make it or break it type of situation.
The key is to concentrate.
I think it turned out fairly good. Painting the OSL on Tiny Harry and on the dragon was so easy. You don't even have to see it. Same rule applies to the orange color on the flames. But I let you see the black dusting. The carving bit stuck into my Dremel chuck, so I had to drill the hole for the flames wire by hand. Then I assembled the diorama and it was finished.
Now the moments you've all been waiting for.
Thank you so much if you made it to the end of the video. Please like, subscribe and let me know which movie scene should I turn into a diorama next. See you next time. Cheers.
End of story. Goodbye, the end.